I can't get him in the middle. Hello, world. Welcome to Allied Command Organization. We are three people that are speakers, and we're also authors and historians. And we have Hans Dietrich on tonight, a good friend of ours that has traveled the world, and Janet Lessin from Hawaii. And Hans is from Oregon, but he travels down to Las Vegas to do the alien event. Hans and Janet Lessin have all been in the alien event with me in the 2000, I want to say four, but it was 2024. Yeah. And this is 2026 now. But we're going to take you all over the place because this is I think it's an Allied Command Organization, which I've introduced in my AI group on TV. Now, Hans is a very well-respected traveler. I love the picture. I'm going to show you real quick. Let me see if I can do it real quick. Oops. No, he didn't do that. I was trying to show that.
Well, yeah, we got that. That's great.
All that artwork on my wall, and those were a gift to me, even though I'm in the picture. But it says alien event, and then it has... what's the other one, Hans? The blue one. I have to look.
They're all the same. One's for a smaller advert that we did.
Yeah, alien event.
Yeah, and then
those were about 100 a piece on like an artist canvas, and there's wood behind it, so it's very nice rendition. So we're going to use those like NFTs in the future, like changing tokens in the new world of creation. So Janet has been a co-producer with me for years.
But we were 2012.
2012, yeah. So it's been, well, that's a lot of years. I'm embarrassed.
No, we can't do math. We're over 70. Forget that.
We travel all over.
12 years.
Yeah. So Hans,
it's like 25. I don't know.
Were you born before then? Yeah, we're gonna. Okay, well, let me let Janet lead first. She wound up in the middle somehow. I tried to switch us, but I couldn't. So Janet, you lead us with Hawaii and anything you want to say about yourself. And we're recording
y'all.
I
remember what Hans is known for. So I'd like to pass it on to Hans and tell us what's your niche, what's your specialty.
Oh, he has many.
Elevator pitch.
He's a polymath.
We'd like to hear your many hats that you wear.
To the audience, I'm Hans Dietrich. I'm an award-winning graphic and presentation designer. I've been working as a graphic designer for the last, 25 plus years. I'm also an esoteric researcher, and so I research into ancient sites and civilizations. I do my research around Buddhist cultural mysticism, the connection with the Dropa stones and Dropa nomadic people and their connection to Sirius. I also research ancient symbology and symbolism, and have written books on all my topics. My book and my lecture is called The Magic of Symbols. And so I go through the three most basic symbols that make up pretty much all of our corporate logos and a lot of symbology around us. And then I also study ancient Peru and Egypt. I wrote a book called Kemet, The Land Before the Greeks. I have all these actually here in front of me.
Yeah, I'd like to see them if you don't mind.
Do my shameless plug. So this is Dropa Legends and Lore.
That's pretty.
I did the book cover. They're only about 180 pages. My second book was called The Magic of Symbols. A lot of it revolves around Saturnian symbology because that's what keeps coming up in a lot of our corporate logos and even AI logos today is a lot of Saturnian symbology. And then my third book is called Kemet, The Land Before the Greeks. And it's about the history of Egypt before the history that we've all been taught, because the majority of Egypt's history that we've learned through school and education today comes from the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the Arabs. But there's a history that precedes that is much more fascinating, because the Greeks got a lot of it wrong, in my opinion and my research. And so those are some of the topics I talk about. I also do shows with Walter Bosley. We've been talking a lot about basically Shambhala, Shangri-La, and the Kham culture of South Asia and their extents pretty much around the world. And yeah, A lot of my research comes from my own lived experience and my own travels and people that I've met along the way, versus a lot of people in the UFO disclosure community tend to repeat the same topics over and over and over again.
Okay.
So
let me.
I like to come with a fresh start, something that people have.
What do you think of this? What's coming up down the line on the disclosure movement?
Well, I think
what
a lot of what we're being fed has been co-opted. There's a lot of money to be made in the disclosure movement. Obviously, we've seen this through Ancient Aliens. We've seen this through shows on Gaia. And so a couple of three-letter agencies decided to get involved because they see the money and they want to control the narrative. And I think the majority of it is not super legit.
Right.
But that's just my opinion.
Well, what do you think about Spielberg's movie coming out June 12th, 2026 on Disclosure Day?
I think I've seen a trailer for it.
Yeah, there's 4 out now.
I don't really know much about it. There's a couple of other movies coming out as well. But Spielberg's, come out publicly and said, I think that they walk amongst us. They look like us, in some similarities. I'm curious if I've seen people myself when I lived in Hawaii, when I lived in Nepal. I grew up in Kathmandu, Nepal from pretty much the age of 4 until I was 19. So Nepal is full of mysticism and lore and legend, and there's some interesting encounters there. The CIA published a bunch of papers in the early 90s from research they had done in the 60s in Nepal about UFO and Bigfoot or Yeti experiences and stories.
Oh.
Kept it classified up until a couple of years ago. And so,
did you get them?
Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
I have both of the reports. Yeah.
Wow.
Very, very, very interesting. There was a UFO crash in Pokhara in Nepal in 1964 that a lot of people witnessed, and so that kind of got swept under the rug, and a lot of people don't know about it. And so these 2 reports about Yeti studies.
What have you seen? Have you seen anything paranormal?
So when I lived on Maui, I had a very interesting experience.
Tell me about the Maui experience.
So I lived in my girlfriend at the time was working at an Airbnb just outside of Paia, which is North Shore, Maui, north of Kahului, where you land, kind of on the road to Hana, on the way, just before you get to Haiku. And our apartment or house that we lived in, it was split up into 3 apartments, was right up against the cane fields. And my view from the road looks across the cane fields to Baldwin Hill and then to Haiku. So Baldwin Hill is about 10 miles. I've done the math on this. It's about 10 miles from my viewpoint, and Haiku is probably another 3 or 4 miles behind that. And I was biking up the road, and I looked, as I always do, across the cane fields, and I saw this white object moving. And my first thought was, oh, it's a water truck, because this was back when they were still using the cane fields on Maui. They've since not used them. They closed down the cane facilities, which I thought was interesting. And I'm watching this white object move very slowly from left to right, and all of a sudden it goes behind Baldwin Hill. And I stopped and went, that's not right. And so I ran into one of the Airbnbs, and I grabbed my girlfriend. I'm like, come check this out. And I have video footage of this. And we watched this white object move behind Baldwin Hill. Well, Baldwin Hill is 10 miles away. So my question is, A, how big was this object? What was it? I mean, it looked like your classic Tic Tac style UFO. It was cylindrical. It was white. And it blew my mind that it was going behind Baldwin Hill. So it must have been a massive vehicle. And every time I've gone back to Maui, you usually fly in over that area because they circle around to fly into Kahului. And I've looked out. There's no buildings there. I mean, there's no structures there that would describe what I saw. So that was always a fascination to me. And then I have about 5 hours of missing time. I went to I guess we could call it a party. It was my friend's band playing up in Haiku, which is up on the mountain. And his brother is one of the hunters on Maui that's allowed to hunt the axis deer. And so we were all having deer meat. We're all sitting around the fire. They're playing music, which was awesome. And I laid back and just stared up into the sky. And the next thing I know, I'm being nudged going, we got to leave now. And I'm like, what do you mean? We just got here. No, we've been trying to arouse you, wake you up for the last 5 hours. You have not budged. You have not even looked like you were, consciously there. And that really disturbed me because I had a complete out of body cosmic experience. Can't explain it. I don't remember it. I just remember staring, because on Maui, you're not surrounded by a lot of light pollution. So you're looking straight into the Milky Way. Right. It's right there. And so are the stars. And so it blew my mind that I had this experience. But I've had a lot of time shift and astral projection style experiences in my life. But as far as seeing visual craft, that was that. And, here in Oregon where I live now, I've been up at Mount Hood, and I was at a children's, it was like all of my friends in the community all brought their kids to my friend's farm. They had a huge camp out. We're all, the adults are all standing around the fire late at night. And I'm like, well, you're up here on the mountain. You don't have a lot of light pollution. Do you ever see anything buzzing around the sky? And my friend Josh is like, no, I never really look up at the sky. What are you talking about? And I looked up, and there's this white light that's just zigzagging around the sky above us. And I said something like that. And he goes, oh my God, I never actually noticed this. And then on 4th of July during COVID, like 3 or 4 years ago, I'm sitting outside my house here, and I'm looking up at the sky, and I see this string of lights. There were like 10 or 15 of them. I also have video footage of this, all in a row, heading that direction. So they're heading northeast from my vantage point. And I'm like, oh, it must be Starlink satellites. I mean, that was my first, right? But then an object comes and starts interacting with them and then leaves. And like I said, I have it's very crappy footage, but I have it all on my phone because I just started recording it. I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. So I've had these kind of experiences. I've never had, any close encounter experiences. I could consider myself an experiencer, but I'm not somebody like a friend of mine who's had, orbs come down into his yard, physically interact with him. I've never had that kind of experience.
I had that.
I've just seen stuff happen across the fields or high up in the sky, but nothing at that level.
Cool. Teresa, you were going to ask some questions.
Well, I didn't know all the experiencer. I should, because we've done one show here and there about Hans. I know he's a great graphic artist, but I'm glad that you're claiming to be a contactee experiencer. And we do have CE1 through CE5. And, the CE5s, when you can directly speak to them or bring them down or that type of contact, which I feel like I used to do in Hawaii, believe it or not, when I was teaching astrology. Well, I was teaching like tarot classes and how to be like psychic psionics, I guess. So that was an experience. We saw some go over volcanoes then, but when I was a little girl, I had the orbs that came up and picked me up because I'd fainted on the ground after hepatitis in 2nd grade, and I was laying out in a red hammock. I had to go into potty, which was hard to do since I'd been so weak. I couldn't walk. I had to learn to walk. That's why my mother would carry me out of the hammock. But one day she didn't hear me yelling in the house. She had other kids. So I decided to take a walk. And when I did, I made it halfway there. And I remember two orbs on each side of me picked me up. My arms were much smaller then. And they each picked me up and sort of looked at me and then floated away. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know where they came from. And all I could think of is I must be hallucinating with Wizard of Oz with Glinda, because that's what it always reminded me of, and I'd already seen that because I know where I was. And we'd already had another house on South 7th in Monroe. And this was in West Monroe. So what it does is it imprints on your mind. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I have plenty of times I've seen them after that. and they record like an imprint, a photograph in your mind or a visual. So I guess all three of us are like that. So Hans, we like to talk ET talk here and to get it on record, but anything that you want to bring up, Janet is an experiencer as well, and we're 15 minutes into it. But Janet, do you have it?
I'll address the orbs. So I had a Cynthia who lived here for a while. She called herself Sophia, and I'm fighting some kind of cold. And anyway, she would go. She rented the apartment. I have a little apartment down below, and she would go out on her deck and just take pictures. And then she had them on her computer, and she'd come up. She goes, "Let me show you what I have here." And the whole sky outside of my facing town is just orbs everywhere. Every night she'd have all these orbs. And then she'd pick them and she'd blow them up. And she goes, "Look at this." And when she blew some of them up, there were little beings inside these orbs. And it's like, what? And so it was amazing what she was getting. She claimed that she worked for DARPA. And she was doing some kind of government research. And I wonder, why did she end up here on my property? But I think that
well, Hawaii is a very magical place.
Very magical, yeah. And she said that they're having Star Wars stuff every night about Maui.
Well, yeah, because all under Haleakala there's the observatory up there, but when Ronald Reagan launched Star Wars or STI, right? Star Wars.
Right.
That's all.
I've had people claim they were in there, and they said, it goes 13, 14, 15 floors down.
Or more. I had a friend
yeah.
that was an engineer, and they took him up there. And it's interesting because when you walk around Haleakala, there are signs on the trail that say if you stray from the trail, lethal force can be ensued. So they'll shoot you for straying off the trail. And so they took my friend up there. He was an electrical engineer, and they needed something fixed. He was the only person on the island that was certified to do it. And he said they literally put me inside of a cardboard box, took me down several layers in the elevator. He was how far down they went. Had him on a gurney, and they pushed him to where he needed to go. Opened up the front of the box. He fixed the electrical equipment, closed the front of the box, put him back in the elevator, shipped him to the surface, and drove him off. And he's like, I have no idea what is in that facilities because they wouldn't allow me to see it.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a friend. He was a little bit eccentric. You know how Maui has these eccentric people?
Oh. You mean like Willie Nelson and Davino?
Yeah, all those people. It was, it's a shame because I've been here since '97, and a lot of those people are gone, and they all needed to be captured on film because they were. Maui attracts these characters. So, yeah, this guy called himself Vajra, which means penis. And anyway, that was his nickname. At least one of the whatever. And he said that he would go up there and they would let him in. And they let him fix things, but he didn't have anything. But I think they didn't care because he was nuts, right? It's like, well, he's crazy. Nobody would ever believe him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so he said, "Oh yeah, I've been up there a lot of times." And then one time I did a remote viewing thing, and we've experimented back in when you were in Hawaii, right? Yeah, we belong with this group, so it's like I play with it, sure. And we saw all these soldiers in there, military and stuff like that, and it's like, well. Am I really seeing this? But, we were both kind of hitting on the same thing. We did like a blind and say, what do you see? And you see this? And what do you see? And then one time I had this guy come to my house. And there's a little backstory. But anyway, he came because we ran the school Tandras. We had all these people. And they'd come under the guise that we want to come to your school. But when we were interviewing him before, we don't just take people. We do a pre-screening.
Sure.
And we were interviewing him. He says, and my seat is the futon. We were sitting on futon, and out the window you could see Haleakala in Science City. He goes, I go, what do you do? He goes, well, I work up there. I go, what? Yeah, I work up there. I program the supercomputer. I come in, 2 or 3 times a year, and I go up there and make sure everything's running right. And so I don't know. It's just like a correlation, right? Here's this person saying that, and that person saying that, and that person saying that.
Well, Hawaii is very fascinating to me because we have multiple military bases. I always tell people this. It's not really a state. It's a military protectorate that has, state qualities on legal paper, but it's actually still a military protectorate. How do we know this? Well, the cops drive around everywhere with a blue light on top of their car, so you always know where the cops are. Well, that's military police. That's not cops. And so I've always found that interesting. Maui is like one of the few islands that you don't see military on because a lot of them are under Haleakala. But, the Big Island, they do a lot of, Army training on the Big Island. They also dummy bomb the Big Island from Guam. So they'll fly 3 stealth fighters like every first Thursday of every month. They'll drop these duds on a target in the what is it, PTL land or whatever, and it didn't become known until a bunch of tourists saw one that washed up on the shore, and it had all the symbols on it as if it was a radiological device, and they freaked out, and the governor had to come out and talk about it. Kauai is all naval nuclear submarines on the southern tip of the island. Oahu and the Navy as well, but Maui just doesn't feel like it has that presence. And it's interesting because of all the caving systems, the old volcanic, tunneling.
Oh, yeah.
All of the islands are connected through tunnel systems. And it's interesting because a lot of people think, oh, Hawaii is only 6 or 7 islands. No, there's like 120 islands in the Hawaiian Islands. I mean, it goes all the way past Johnson Atoll toward Okinawa. That's all Hawaii.
And that's where I was.
All Hawaii, yeah.
I was there for a year and a couple of months.
Really?
I followed the boy from there. I saw all kinds of.
It's for sale.
Are they really going to sell it?
It's in the island sale book for a couple $1 million. Yeah, it's completely. There's a hotel there. There's a golf course there. There's a private there.
No, there's no hotel.
Johnston. Yeah.
Johnston ain't how I've been there. It's only a half mile by 3 miles. It's got a runway that takes up most of it.
Yeah, I've been there for 20 years, like Janet.
Huh?
There's a hotel there and an old abandoned golf course.
I have a site and one. I'll ask my people.
Look at it.
They have been a different. I'm pretty sure it was Johnson.
It's quite a different item because it's pretty. Because under there is a big ET military base, and I've been under there.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, well, maybe I'm nuts. And then I talked to Billy Hayes, who, right before he died, he contacted us. He wanted to come on our show. And he said, oh, yeah, it's down by the shark chute. They have an entry there. And I went out on the other end by the golf course. But the golf course is like...
It's tiny. It's not
3 or 4 holes, right? Yeah.
Not very
and
big.
The largest place, they had a barracks, which might be able to have a small hotel. But I don't think they're going to have people go there because there's just all this... It's just terrestrials, but they had it's a what do you call it? A wildlife preserve right now.
Right now, yeah, correct.
Yeah. So anyway,
when I lived in Nepal, I met this guy who was selling property in Fiji, and so I was really fascinated. It was, God, I want to say 25 acres. It went from the road, and it was like the skinny property that went down to a beachfront.
Right.
But you couldn't build anything on it except on the beachfront because it was all protected forest.
Right.
And there's a huge lumber logging issue in Fiji. And so I started talking with this guy, and he's like, oh, you should look into, there's a catalog out there for all the islands around the world that are for sale. And so somewhere I have a PDF in my umpteen.
I'd like to see that, yeah, because it's
there's some really interesting islands around the world that are for sale. Let me tell you, it's like wow.
Yeah. But if the ocean rises, it's underwater because you're flat. That's why whenever there's
there's no hills on Johnston Atoll. It's pretty flat.
Oh, it's just flat. It's just flat. Yeah. So go ahead.
There's all those atolls that go from Kauai all the way up, and so that's why I tell people, I'm like,
But the underground stuff, yes, I agree. The whole world it's got this connection underground. Eventually, I mean, anyway, I've had whistleblowers and people have talked about being in the under. It's not a railway; it's like a system that goes east to west coast, and then I was down in D.C. and looking at their platform, and they showed where we're going to go, and so the public thing is just like weaving these tunnels to go everywhere from Florida to Maine, right? And I looked at it back in 1990. What was it?
Not 1890.
1993 or four, right before I came to Hawaii, and I'm going, and it just dawned on me, that's all part of that system. So they have the public thing.
How old are you?
I said 1993.
Oh, you did? Okay.
You're mishearing me.
I'm
going over the ear. Anyway, Hans, I heard that they did try to sell it, but then they pulled it.
They might have pulled it. This was years ago. Talking,
But what I know about it, you don't want some regular people.
They were using it for biological research as well at some point. They were doing a lot of biological studies there.
Well, they blew up a nuke above it, so
that's
that was part of it.
That's
What kind of biological studies and where?
Well, they were doing like biochemical research.
Where?
On Johnson.
They had a facility that was neutralized the elements down to its core. They tried to break everything down to make it neutral because it was toxic, right? Yeah.
So they had a huge like fungal program. They were trying to destroy the nuclear like radiation using fungus. A lot of mushroom studies. And there's a bunch of bugs as well that will plow through this stuff, like parasites and bugs.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You know a lot about Hawaii, Hans.
I loved it. Living there was, there's a saying, either the islands accept you or she will spit you out. There's no in between. There's no gray area. And so a lot of people in Canada come to, especially Maui, and they buy property, and they're like, oh, we're going to live here. And then, 6 months into living there, they realize, oh my God, I'm on an island and no one's coming to rescue me if there's any issues. And they abandon ship. And so the price of land and property just keeps going up and up and up and up as a result of this. But even though I grew up in Nepal, there were so many similarities. I mean, Nepal's a landlocked country,
Right.
Maui and the Hawaiian Islands are out in the middle of the ocean. You're surrounded by ocean all day. But there are so many different similarities with the temperature, with the land itself, that reminded me a lot of Nepal. And so I fell in love with it. And I wish I had stayed.
I love Hawaii. Yeah, I got to live on Hawaii. I visited where Janet lives now in Maui.
Oh, she was at my house before I met my husband. This is how weird the world is.
Yeah. E.T. world.
You didn't get to meet my husband. She met my husband's ex-wife. But it's really weird. And I go, wow.
I was supposed to meet Sasha, and he had planned on meeting Sasha, but Sasha got a deal for some $175,000 on the mainland and had to go run to collect the money. He was going to he was like a superstar or something in California and New York. But Janet, you remember when he used to get that kind of money to run off and do it?
Didn't get that kind of money when he's with me. That's for sure. It's like, damn. Yeah. No, he was hanging out with all these millionaires that like to do holotropic breath work and
working on the chakras.
And chakras.
Chakras.
This is about Hans.
TMers, I imagine.
We worked on holodynamics too, and taking your child back. Remember, it was during the birthing period and rebirthing and all of that.
I went back in I lived there 2009 to 2011. We left because of Fukushima and all that. I mean,
oh yeah, I remember that.
Everyone freaked out because they didn't do the protocol correctly. They were supposed to leave all the cell and landlines open. They shut everything off 2 hours before the tidal waves hit. The tsunami, the tidal waves hit.
Yeah.
And then we were lied to. Oh, they didn't hit that bad. Well, we were all told to go above 50 feet. So, all my friends and we had to go up toward Makawao, which is like way up above. the coastal line. And in Lahaina, at the Marriott and the Westin, they had flood damage from the tsunami on the second and third stories of the building. Well,
Oh, goodness.
in Lahaina, those buildings are already 100, 200 feet above water. So if you're having flood damage on the second and third floor, that means those waves were a lot larger than we were told. And it was kind of freaky. And you do realize at that point, I'm on an island and no one's coming to get me, you know. And so I came back to the mainland. But I went back in 2013, and then I went back in 2017. And in 2013, I was invited to the Residence Project when Nassim Haramein had his facilities there. He originally had
really? Tell us about Nassim and what you did there.
So I went for his lecture, but he showed up for about 5 minutes of it. It's mostly Jamie Janover who, you know, talks about all the stuff that he talks about. And I was sitting in the front row going, oh, this is Graham Hancock's work. Oh, this is Klaus Donna's work. Oh, you know, and you see Jamie looking at me going, shut up, Hans, shut up, Hans, you know. And so
you know the original.
And was hanging out. And I was hanging out with one of Jamie's good friends he grew up with in the Hamptons. And this guy didn't know anybody or anything on the island. And I have two really good friends that live on Kauai. The husband builds all the stage sets for Motley Crue. They Might Be Giants, Jack Johnson, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and a bunch of other bands. Lenny Kravitz. He builds all their stage sets. And so he lives in Princeville, which is the north shore of Kauai. And so my friend comes and picks me up with Jamie Janover's friend, and we drive around for a day because we had a couple days there. And I was like, I'd really like to go up to the Residence Project, hang out with Nassim, see his, you know, technologies that he's inventing. And I wanted to get a job. I wanted to be their art director. And so I got cleared through Jamie to go up there, and it was really the most amazing experience I've had around alternative energy technology. It blew my mind. I can talk about it now because Nassim has actually published his patents. But he had a device there that was like this globe. It's in one of his documentaries that he's in. It's in the background, and nobody knows what it is. But what he would do is pump gobs of electricity through this device, so it pulsed in counter rotation, and it would warp the floorboards in the house whenever he turned it on, and the water coming out of the tap would become really sweet. I mean, it had this energy effect to it, and yeah, it was fascinating. It was fascinating to see, and the property he was on was beautiful. It was an old plantation property, but since then he's moved his operations to outside of LA somewhere now. But I really enjoyed the opportunity to go up to the Residence Project itself and actually hang out with him and his staff, and it was a good time. Yeah,
he's got a lot of followers. He really does. So he's got his own patents, so he's protected now, right? So you can talk about it, right? Did he say how many patents, or have you looked up?
He's only published a couple, but this was one of the first things. It's called a quantum dynamic resonator or something like this, and it was really fascinating that he actually published the patent. And so I had to sign all these non-disclosures. I can't talk about it. It's like, yeah, you're public now. I can talk about it. So,
well, what are you going to talk about at the Alien event coming up March 16th? In a couple of days, aren't you going?
Not the 6th. The 16th is Carrie Cassidy's podcast. So she's going to interview all of us on Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I hope I can make it because I work crazy hours, and I'm actually working from 11 to 9 p.m. It's gonna be a long day, but I'll try and get on it. I'm hoping to. But it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of next week, so it's the 20th, 21st, 22nd. I think that's Friday.
Okay. And you'll be speaking in LA?
Yep. So I'll be talking about Shambhala, Shangri-La, and you know this sacred city in the earth that's connected to Sirius and astral projection. And so it's kind of a mix of the stuff I do with Walter on Shambhala and the Kam culture, along with my studies in Bhutan, because I did my thesis in Bhutan about Buddhist mysticism and this very rare sect of Buddhism called Nyingma Buddhism, which is where we get all the stories of levitation, Mount Meru, the Sintamani stone, astral projection, ascended Tulku masters. All this comes out of this very small sect.
Uh-oh.
We lost your sound.
You lost your sound.
Are you there?
Yeah, you replugged it in, whatever it was. Okay, could you go back over what you just said?
Oh, so I got my thesis in Bhutan in 1998. I did my thesis study there. It was interesting because Bhutan's a very hard country to get into, even today. Back then, they allowed probably close to 200 plus tourists a year.
Ooh.
It cost $300 to $600 a day for your visa. They allowed you 10 days in the country, and it was very tight schedule. You're allowed to go from Paro to Thimphu and Thimphu to Bumtang, and that was it, and see the monasteries in between. And your visa did not include room, board, or transportation or gifts that you buy. It was just your physical
What's the
visa.
300 to 600 for?
Just
to get in?
Well, they don't want a lot of tourists there, and so you have to be
Way to
invited.
keep them out.
You apply for a visa, and then they review you, and then they invite you. Well, I got a 2-month extended access, all access visa to Bhutan because my dad worked there.
Oh.
So I could do the studies. I was studying ancient art and architecture of Bhutan and Buddhist mysticism, which kind of came out of my studies there of that. And so I spent 2 months going around to some of the most remote monasteries in Bhutan that Westerners will never see. Some of these monasteries have the oldest art or Buddhist art that remains in the world because a lot of it was destroyed when China invaded Tibet in 1950. The remainder of it is in Bhutan. And so I went there to study that, and I opened the door. Period.
I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, it broke up again.
Is it your speaker?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Weird. Anyway, so that was what my thesis was about, but it started getting me on the path of researching into a lot of these topics. So my topic in LA will be on astral projection, Buddhist mysticism, kind of tying Shambhala, this mystical city that's buried in the earth, or it's behind mountains in a hidden valley. Nobody really knows, but look into the mysteries of Mount Meru. It's actually the core chakra of Mount Meru buried deep. And Mount Meru is 7 different dimensional layers all the way to the crown chakra, both physical and a dimensional mountain. And the crown chakra connects directly to Sirius, the brightest star that rises in the east, through what they call a rainbow bridge. Well, this is fascinating. What's the rainbow bridge, right? So in Norse mythology, you have the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that connects the 9 realms. In Buddhist philosophy, you have this magical rainbow bridge that connects Earth to Sirius. A lot of the astral projection that you read about in ancient script are these.
You're warbling again. I'm not sure what's going on with your mic.
Yeah.
Was it my
Have
mic?
or something's going on.
As it goes into your computer,
That's interesting.
warbles.
I'm hearing feedback on your end, which is interesting. So
Do you have everything cached or cleared on your
yeah,
computer?
no, everything's clear.
Excellent. Interesting. It's just maybe something you're working on. You work on computers all day, don't you?
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not
Is
sure.
that
What,
the same?
More about the astral projection. Do you astrally project, or are you?
I do in dream state, and I also I call it a bleed over effect, where I have like lucid dreaming while I'm physically present.
Yeah,
Like,
hypnagogic.
I'll start walking down the streets of Nepal, in Kathmandu.
Yeah.
It's as vivid in my mind as us having a conversation right now.
Right.
And so
Well, you're one of us then, because we never know where we're going to be.
Philip K. Dick called this orthogonal time.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
instead of parallel time, orthogonal time is a different timeline, but it bleeds into the current timeline. And so
I use spiraling up. Yeah.
that's something that definitely comes up a lot. I did a podcast with Melissa Morrison recently, and we talked about dream state and orthogonal time as well.
Melissa who?
Morton,
Morton. Oh, I love her.
yeah,
Yeah. Does she have her own show now? Because
yeah,
I invited her on this one.
she does a lot of podcasts. We'll get her onto your show for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I invited her on and I kept getting her with her and she'd give me a number and it wouldn't work. And, we'd say, what about Saturday? But I've been trying to get her for months too, Hans. So
Okay,
you'll have to talk to her for me.
I definitely will. Well, she'll be in LA as well. Are you guys coming to LA this time? Or
I'm not. Now, Jan and I are getting older in the 70s. And it's right now I'm going through physical therapy for my,
I'm having trouble walking.
yeah,
It's
we're
like
having trouble.
You hit 70. I'm 72. Teresa's 74. It's like, why can't we stand up? Like
We sit down all day.
Well, that part of it's a computer body, but it's like well, I can't be lugging luggage and going in and out of the airport when I can't even walk.
So, well, fine in my dreams.
Huh?
Well,
It's weird. I want disclosure, so they give us the reverse aging. Like,
We've been doing this so long, and we want answers to why we're all here and why we have all these levels of experiences, out of body and near-death experiences, and contactee experiences, and growing ourselves.
my experience with astral projection and lucid dreaming is, are we the dream or the dreamer, right? I mean, this is the only question. Because my dreams and my memory of my dreams are almost the same as my memories of the waking life.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell the difference between the two because you remember the same stuff. And physically our eyes can only see at 200 dpi, and we see 500 million images flash across our eyes daily, but our mind can only track about 50,000 of them.
Right.
And so the question is, are dreams the bits and pieces that our mind doesn't pick up and is still processing? So this gets into the realm of astral projection. I've always, since I was a young kid, I've always had these very intense dreams, especially from my grandfather's house here in Vancouver, Washington, where I would project myself from his house to other locations in my dream, and very, very realistic, like very, very vivid and realistic.
I used to go to underground cities at least several times a week, and I had a specific course. I would go out my crown, walk down the hall from my bedroom, walk down the stairs through the dining room down to the basement, and across from the big heater was an entryway to Shambhala, the halls of Menti. I would just keep going down. I'd have all this stuff going on all night. I remember coming and going, but I wasn't allowed to bring it back. It's like, I don't know why.
Except here in your mind.
It's here, and if maybe hypnosis, I don't know. But it's like I do know it's there, but I can't bring it back to here. But I think it was something, like Shambhala, like an inner Earth city. I get the impression it was not just a bunch of caves. It was like there was a real civilization there. But it's like, okay, thanks. I did a job there, maybe. I worked there, but I did something there. It was important. And it's like, oh, you got to go back because you got to get back into your body before you wake up and go to school.
Well, this is kind of, astral projection is a segue into a bit of what I talk about. And it's interesting because you look through ancient Buddhist like poetry, especially the Lotus Sutra, which was discovered around 100 BC, but most likely is much older. But it's all this advanced Buddhist poetry. And one of the chapters in the Lotus Sutra is about a being named Gadgad Savara. And one day, Manjusri, who is a disciple of Sakyamuni, the great Buddha, we're all told in the West that Sakyamuni is Siddhartha, and Siddhartha was the first Buddha, but in reality, he was probably the 100th reincarnate of the great Buddha who lives in Shambhala. And one day, Manjusri is meditating, and in his meditation, he is visited by this being who calls himself Gadgad Savara. And they communicate, and he thinks, "Oh, I'm just hallucinating this. This is me, deep in my meditation, and I'm hallucinating this being." But Gadgad Savara says, "No, I'm not a hallucination, and I'll prove it to you." Because what just happened?
I was trying to get you in the center. You were falling off.
No worries. He says, "I'm not a hallucination. I'll prove it. I'll leave you 7 jeweled lotus flowers when you come out of your meditation." And so Manjusri comes out of his meditation. He's sitting on a hillside, and sitting in front of him are these 7 jeweled lotus flowers, which represent the chakra points. And so he goes running to Sakyamuni, and he's like, please tell me, who is Gadgad Savara, and how does he have the ability to reach me in the astral meditation, my astral meditation?" And Sakyamuni says, "Well, Gadgad Savara is a sage, a bodhisattva, from the brightest star that rises in the east, which is Sirius. And he has mastered the physical, spiritual technology of astral projection. And therefore, he is able to visit you in the astral plane." And Manjusri says, "Well, how can I reach that level where I can visit him in the astral plane?" And Sakyamuni says, "Well, you're uninitiated. So a more profound monk who is initiated will have to take you into a deep state of transcendental meditation so that you can then meet again with Gadgad Savara." So they do this, and he meets him again, and they converse, and he challenges him, "Do you have the ability to come to Earth in your physical form?" And Gadgad Savara thinks about it, and he's like, "Yes." And so then it's said that he and his disciples climb on his flying palace, a tower of 7 layers. So here's another reference to Mount Meru and spiritual meditational technology and the chakra points. And in the blink of an eye, and accompanied by the sounds of hundreds of thousands of musical instruments being played without players, he traverses time and space and arrives in our atmosphere. He comes down in his flying palace. He and his disciples disembark, get off the palace, and come and meet with Manjusri and Sakyamuni. He's described as being short in stature, which is how they describe the Dropa or the Drokpa people, the nomadic people of South Asia that came out of far eastern Com Tibet in the 1950s as nomads. He has blue within blue eyes. Well, where else do we get this reference? From Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune, blue within blue eyes. He has golden glowing skin. And he looks around and he blesses Earth. He says, "Earth is a beautiful place, unlike the Saha, or wasteland that I come from around Sirius that was destroyed by an ancient war and left as filth, mud, rocks, and dirt." He then meditates with his disciples and Manjusri and Sakyamuni's disciples, climbs back atop his flying palace, a tower of 7 layers, and once again, in the blink of an eye, and accompanied by the sounds of hundreds of thousands of musical instruments being played without players, he traverses time and space back to Sirius. This is an extraterrestrial visitation. There's no way around it. He's in a flying craft that revolves around harmonics or vibrational harmonics, and it creates a sound when it enters and leaves the atmosphere, as if the repulsor lifts or rockets are helping it to land. This is the cacophony of noise of hundreds of thousands of musical instruments being played without players. It's like when the orchestra starts up and they start playing all these different notes, and it's a cacophony of noise. But this is the only way in this poetic verse that they could describe this experience, because they had no way of describing it otherwise. They'd never experienced it before. So it's this cacophony of noise. But this is the actual physical vehicle that Gadgad Savara arrived from Sirius in and visited Manjusri and Sakyamuni. This is in Buddhist literature. It's an extraterrestrial visitation. There's no way around it.
Wow. Well, do you think some of the Vimanas came and landed and they just left them there? They were really ships that landed. They're actually ancient
There's a
ships.
question of that because you look at some of the Vedic temples in India and they look like Vimanas.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had after a year of meditation and nightly, I went to weekly classes and meditated every night at the same time. I had this download of 4 incarnations. In the last one, I was on board a castle ship coming to look for a place to land in the UK or Wales or something, and my alarm went off. So I said, I interpreted, your mind feels it like maybe that's where they were going to land Camelot, because it's like the once and future king. It's like we can't find Camelot, and then it's like, damn! I woke up. I wanted to see how that ended, but I told people, no,
that once there was a Camelot. I said, and may it not be forgot. That once
right.
Camelot.
And so I try to say, well, there are ships that look like, and then I had another vision where I was astral and I'm going in space, and there's a big, beautiful palace in space, and I'm going down a long pathway and I'm heading to go into it, and I never get into it. And it's like, well, what's going on there? But you're saying it was a castle. It was a beautiful ship that's
palace. It was seven.
Yeah, it was like
7 layers. Yeah,
that's the first I've heard anybody verify that. Thank you. I thought it was.
This is how it's described in the Lotus Sutra.
Oh, wow!
Bizarre passage that you would read because, looking through the eyes of today, you have to look at it as this is an extraterrestrial visitation. There's no way around it.
So what was Shambhala? So you tie it is. So you said it could be
my tutor in Bhutan, his name was Tashila. He saw that I was starting to really resonate with some of the ancient Buddhist stories, and so one of the rooms he took me into had all these depictions of Mount Meru. Well, Mount Meru is an actual physical mountain. It's kind of on the border of the Gobi Desert, northwestern Tibet, and Ladakh. It's like right there. But it's also considered a dimensional mountain. And so it stems from the root of it deep in the earth, which is where the city of Shambhala is, or Agartha, or Shangri-La, whatever we want to call it. And it goes through different dimensions that are occupied by different dimensional beings, all the way to the earthly plane, and then in Vedic philosophy, the 4 lokas above that. So there's these 7 layers to it. And so the summit is the crown chakra. If you're looking at the chakra points, that's the summit, and it connects by this rainbow bridge energy to Sirius. So there's always been this connection with Sirius and Shambhala.
Right.
Shambhala is the root. But Shambhala, you enter it through a bunch of caves. Helena Blavatsky went to Tibet trying to find it. So did Nicholas Roerich. So did Alice Bailey, who was Helena Blavatsky's understudy. And she would channel Jwal Khul, which was Helena's guide, basically. But then there's this other character named Alexandra David Neal. And she was a French philosopher and theosophist, basically. She lived to be 101 years old, which is unheard of. She lived from 1868 to 1969. That's unheard of. And she went into Afghanistan with her guide Yongden from Tibet. They trekked all through the Himalayas to the Karakoram to the Zhejiang Mountains, all through that region. And she ended up in the valley of Balkh. And Balkh is near where the Bayam Buddhist statues were that the Taliban sadly destroyed. And she believed that there was a cave entrance to the sacred city of Shambhala in Balkh, in Afghanistan. And this is one of the most remote regions of the Hindu Kush, right there. I mean, it's so hard to get up in there. And so how do you verify this? Well, it's interesting because what is in the sacred city? Well, you have the Great White Brotherhood, or the Brotherhood of Light, as I call them, and the Great Buddha, the King of the World. who's this giant Buddha figure who resides in there and keeps the remaining shards of the Sintamani stone in his possession so that the greedy folks of the world who've been seeking this for years and years and years can't find it, because it's a meteorite that came from Sirius, but it grants its possessor longevity of life and prosperity. And so it's been sought after by everybody. Find it in Salvator Mundi, the painting of Jesus that Da Vinci did. He's holding this crystal ball, and he calls it the Philosopher's Stone or the Holy Grail, but it's the Sintamani stone. And it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize a lot of the portraits that Leonardo da Vinci did of people were actually self-portraits of himself, including the Mona Lisa. That is him. That's not a woman. He is the Mona Lisa. And we know this because if you've ever been to Leonardo da Vinci Art Museum tour, they did a couple of them a few years ago. There is a study of, it's a hand-drawn study of the Mona Lisa that he did before the Mona Lisa, and it's him drawing himself.
Wow.
So, like he was the model for Mona Lisa. He's the model for Salvator Mundi. Anyway, when you get into Muslim philosophy, you have Mecca, and in the center of Mecca is the Kaaba building, Kaaba, right? Soul Spirit building. It's a black cube. Well, this is Saturnian symbology right there, the black cube. In the eastern corner of it is a silver yoni, goddess symbology, that faces Sirius rising in the east during the Hajj, because Sirius and Canis Major will rise above the horizon at the end of July, early August. And sitting in the silver yoni is the Kaaba stone, which is a piece of meteorite that fell from Sirius. So this is the Sintamani. This is a shard of the Sintamani stone, and it, you go do your Hajj once in your lifetime as a Muslim, and you walk around the Kaaba building 7 times counterclockwise, which is the way the rings of Saturn go, which is interesting. And eventually, you make your way up to touch or kiss the Kaaba stone. And what a lot of people don't realize is the Kaaba building itself, the black cube, was never a Islamic site to begin with. It was commissioned by the Queen of Sheba for Solomon, her lover. So it was always a goddess temple, always. But it got usurped. And so this Sintamani stone keeps coming around. It's the main stone is protected by the Great White Brotherhood and the Great Buddha in Shambhala. And in China, the ancient mystics placed it underneath the paw of the Fu dogs that guard the Forbidden City, and it's wrapped in the flower of life symbology, and it's known as the luck stone, basically. But it's underneath the paw of the Fu dogs and guards the Forbidden City. And it's interesting that Fu dogs are incorporated here because Sirius is known as the dog star.
Right.
Yeah.
It rises during the dog days of summer. Okay. It's the brightest star in Canis Major, which is the dog constellation.
Right.
You look at Sirius FM or Sirius, radio. What is their logo? It's a dog with a star for its eye, the dog star. So it always has had this dog representation to it. In ancient China, it was known as Qingao, which is the wolf of the sky that eats the sun during eclipses, but it was Sirius. And so there's always a depiction, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's always shooting his arrow at the dog in the sky. And it's the same. It's the same with in Tibet. It's the Tibetan dog star. It's known as Sirius. And so why is Sirius related to dogs? I've never quite figured this one out. But there's a lot that deals with that. But the fact in my research that Sirius has such a strong connection to ancient Buddhism is very fascinating. Like, what
Do you know
is
about the Bin stone? Or Suleiman would be Solomon in ancient script. Is that correct? Suleiman, Solomon.
Yeah. So On is the word for the sun in ancient Commission. Sol or Sol is the name of the sun in Latin.
Right.
And Om is the sound that the sun makes when it rises, where Om Mani Padme Hum comes from, the jewel that rises, the jewel within the crown. And so it's a combination word, Solomon. But again, all these names came out of Greek literature. So are the actual names of these people? So you look at something like Isis. That was not her name. Her name was Aset, which means the goddess of water. You have Osiris. Well, that wasn't his name. His name was Wasir, the wise. Right? Anything that ends in an is or s, that all comes from the Greeks. That's not
right.
Yeah. The Horus was, Horhet,
Right. The same person has a different name depending on the culture.
Memphis was Min Nefer. Min is fertility, and Nefer means the harmony of fertility. But that's where the name Memphis comes from, which was what we call Cairo today. Cairo is an Arabic word, and it means the city of Mars, the city of war, or the city of Mars. El Cairo. So here you have, capital of Egypt named after Mars. What's going on there?
Oh, okay.
Y'all better look at the time.
Yeah.
We'll have
we're hour and 1 minute into it. So.
Yeah.
You're interesting, and we should have him back, shouldn't we, Janet?
Yes. I need to research more of this stuff that you're talking about. But it's interesting that it was White Brotherhood.
I
couldn't hear you.
Wait,
what did you say?
What did you say?
Buy my books. Shameless plug.
Oh yeah, we'll put all your books on a logo. What I was going to say is, when I went to that meditation group, which resulted in the download, they said you are now studying with the White Brotherhood, and once you enter this group, it'll never leave you. You are part of the White Brotherhood, and I was going, oh, this is pretty woo-woo, right? It's back in 89.
That's what got me started on my path, even though I was
White Brotherhood. And so here you are talking about the White Brotherhood, which all the correlations. So fascinating.
You have Jay Widener every once in a while. You should ask him about it as well, because he's got a very good knowledge on.
Right.
Who?
Jay Widener.
Jay Widener. Yeah.
Oh, Jay. Yeah, he's been on here a couple of times. And what does he like to talk about?
Well, he interviewed me years ago on the Dropa. We got into the stories of the Great White Brotherhood, and Shambhala, where all that sparked off was needed.
Were the Dropa
we'll have you both on then.
Yeah. I have one last question. The Dropa, are they part of those Greys that got killed? That got psyched?
So the Dropa story is interesting. To summarize it, in 1938, an archaeologist named Chipute, that's not his name, it was a transliteration. His real name is Shifu Techu, or Shifu Te, which means master or teacher Te, not Chipute. So somebody heard the name wrong. This is part of my research. They find a cave with a bunch of burials in it, a star map, and a round flat disc with what they call alien engravings on it. All the beings are about 4 foot tall. They're mummified. They have this orangish skin, blue eyes. Again, this is what the Drokpa nomadic people of this region that are now nomadic look like. They all have slightly elongated heads, which is interesting. And this disc supposedly has an alien language on it that tells the story of them crash landing here 12,000 years ago. But right. The actual story is they came here 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
They fought with the humans that had just survived the Holocene comet event, and they ended up taking some back to Sirius with them and realized that they are genetic cousins of us.
Wow.
And that some of the warriors had sex with the women of Earth, and there could be a hybrid population living on Earth. So they return around 1000 AD, and that's when they crash landed. And they sent out search parties to find water, food, anything, because it's the middle of the winter in the Himalayas, and they weren't prepared for that. And so the cave, I think, was a burial site for some of these parties that went out looking for
interesting, yeah,
food and water. What's interesting is the disc itself does not have an alien language on it. How would you ever be able to read it without a cipher? You couldn't. The language on it is Shinai, which is the language that the Drokpa people speak, Shinai. It's only spoken by about 3,000 people in the world today. It's one of the oldest languages in the world, period. It's a gendered language. It has a male and female voice to it. It's also a hierarchical language. It has a child's tongue, a common tongue, and a royal tongue. And I think that they saw it as an alien language, but because it's a regional language, they were able to translate it 20 years after they found it. And what it says is that the Dropa came down from the clouds in their craft, which could be multiple or could be single, 10 times before the sunrise. The villagers hid in the caves until this time they realized that the Dropa came with peaceful intentions, which means that they'd come before. And this is during the Holocene event. And so it's interesting that you have this nomadic group of people coming out of this exact region of now central China, but was called Far Eastern Kham Tibet during the Kham Empire, that have been forced to be nomadic. They don't speak any of the regional dialects. They don't look like any of the regional people. They're all 4 foot tall. They all have blue eyes. They, and this very
Everybody done their DNA.
very orange. And well, and it's funny because you say that, because I wanted to go back to Bhutan and do blood tests on these people. My dad was always going to do bloodletting on any of my tours, so I never had the ability to do this, but it would be very fascinating to find out what is the origin of these people.
That would be great.
But this hybrid extraterrestrial race from Sirius that interbred with humans. That is the ultimate question.
So that means that we have a common origin even before, because we couldn't breed with somebody that we didn't have.
Correct.
Right.
So this comes back into some of these old literatures from Buddhism, talking about astral projection to Sirius, and a character like Gadgad Savara, who is described literally as we see the Drokpa nomadic people today. So
that's very interesting.
That's my segue into a closing for this, because it all comes back around, and it's like all these stories are interconnected.
So ET is here today.
Complete hoax, but in order to hoax it, you would have had to have immersed yourself in both Bhutanese and Tibetan Buddhist culture in the early 1930s and 1940s, which was impossible. Right. So how are you hoaxing this story? Well, you're hoaxing it in a way because you're transliterating what you're hearing. Transliteration is a game of intellectual telephone. You hear something in one language and you try and translate it into your own language to tell other people about it. So it becomes spoken differently. So Chipute came from Shifu Te, but to somebody that doesn't understand what Shifu is, they hear Chipu.
Right.
Shifu means teacher or master. And then you have, the guy that actually ended up translating the story. His name in the books is called Sungun Nui. Well, that's not his name. His name's Xuyen Nguyen. It's a Vietnamese, Chinese Vietnamese name. But again, you don't hear that. You hear Sungun Nui, not Xuyen Nguyen. So
Fascinating.
So it's like if you start scratching underneath the surface of the story that just repeats itself over and over ad nauseum online, there's actually some interesting stuff there that most people would never realize because they're just reading what's on Wikipedia or what everybody about on Ancient Aliens or whatever around the Dropa stones and Dropa people, because nobody wants to do the research. They just repeat ad nauseum the script that they've been handed. And it's like, I've actually sat down and did the research, and I started finding all these correlations with my thesis study in ancient Buddhist mysticism. So anyway, that's
great.
We've got to have you back. You're very interesting. You kept my interest, which is hard to do since I do this a lot. But thank you very much, Hans, for joining us tonight. And I hope people will look forward to meeting you in LA.
Come to LA.
Where will you be?
Okay. It's at the Sonesta LAX Hotel, or you can find me at megalithic mysteries.com. That's my website. got a lot of my adventures to Peru and Egypt, as well as I'm still need to update it, but I have some of my Nepalese stuff on there, Bhutan trip, and all my books are there as well, and all the events book and app.
I got to find her plug.
What are you looking for, Teresa?
It says I'm fixing to run out of energy. I'm like, no, I can't run out of energy. The lights are on. So the computer's telling me.
Well, let's call this a day.
Yeah.
Great show. Thanks, Hans. And I had a lot more questions, but we'll have to do this another time.
For sure.
Definitely gonna. Yeah, I don't want to bring it up because we'll start talking. We got to wrap it up. I'm gonna go. I have a sister with dementia. I have to go feed her. Oh my God.
Okay, well, folks, it's been nice. I don't know where the problem is, but it all looks plugged up. But it's saying your battery's running low, and I've got it plugged in. So.
Let's just call it a day before you run out of juice. That sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, Hans, you got my number. I guess your number's in my screen or in my phone somewhere. I never can find it, but I'm not corporate. What is it called? Anyway, Hans, call me because you do graphic art, and Janet and I want some to go with our ET Talk. Hans, did you get the ET Talk pen by chance?
When you were at her conference, when she was there, she got all these ET Talk.
I have. It's small, right? Yeah, I think I have.
It's a lapel pin. Yeah. Okay, I was just wondering if you did because that's a very exclusive club, and I only had so many. I put money into it.
Because I all that stuff in a bag from all my conventions. I know. Yep.
Yeah, it's ET Talk TV pin, and then I have the UFO Association on top, and UAP Associates on the bottom. So I coined those for future.
It's only about this big. It's super tiny, right?
Right. They're little lapel pins. They go up here. And yeah, I've got a picture of one on here. Let me see if it'll show it to you. See, I'm gonna try. Oh, it's not gonna let me do anything.
All right. Well, I have to go, Teresa. So I'm gonna say aloha.
Okay.
No.
Mahalo.
Oh, do I have to stay logged on?
Well, you're supposed to stay on to get your copy.
Okay, I will stay logged on, but I'm gonna mute everything.
All right. Well, folks, it's been enjoyable. I hope you learned something. I sure did. And we'll do this Fridays and Saturdays for whoever's available in our ET UFO community. So talk amongst yourselves. We have UFO Secret Space and UFO Association, UAP Associates, and we have Hybrid Genies, which is new for those people. And of course, in the little corner is my Psychic University. Never forget that, in the Invisible College. And as Hans Dietrich brought us tonight, the White Brotherhood is a history of people coming and going from many levels and dimensions that we'll talk about later. Hans, we'll have you back with Jay Widener. I'll try to set that up.
I love Jay. He's
okay.
He's a good conversation.
Janet hasn't been in a conversation with him yet either. So it'll be the first time we do 4.
He interviewed me in 2023, I think. Yeah.
All right. Well, is Friday night good for you or Saturday night?
Either or. I get off work at 9, so it makes things a little difficult because.
So late, like tonight. Okay, I'll see if
it's 9:15 right now, Pacific time.
All right, so I'll see. Janet's available. Okay, Janet's got to go. All right, love and light. Everybody, stay on, Janet, if you want your copy. Okay,
awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Stay on afterward.
ET Talk TV community is about sharing in educational entertainment for our own enjoyment of learning about humanity communication among individuals. As an individual born on Earth, we aspire to be more educated about life as we grow and mature into a human being based on our age at the time. We learn the more we grow, the more we know, or so it is said by the common community gathering of people. We assume others around us based on their age have attended educational institutions while on the planet. Thinking in general is a way of expressing what is known in an individual's cultural upbringing. We who are born in the United States of America are blessed in affirming our own agency and have freedom of speech. We Americans are lucky to have been born in a country that had been set up with laws to govern our nation. However, we are much more than just humans as Americans living in the United States of America. Regardless of the circumstances one is born in, does make a difference. Cultural community upbringing is different in different countries and scenarios around the world. We are an experiment, obviously, by some higher intelligence. Most of us began sharing our thoughts in writing on radio and in blogs, and vlogs when we discovered freedom to do so. We learned we could communicate online. We discovered the smartphones, and life has changed a lot since the beginning of computers. Computers and our government setting up communication for governing and for educational purposes allowed a new beginning for humankind. All of humanity will discover the internet online within the next 20 years or so. It will appear on planet Earth. Thanks to technology and AI reverse engineering, we are expanding our horizons as to what we can be, do, and accomplish in one lifetime. One lifetime is now expanded to allow for 100 years to become 125 years in our future. Telomeres and DNA hybridization are being studied about our own humanity and how we as humans can learn to extend our lifespan. We are going to continue to keep in touch and to form an ET Talk TV community for those who like to know others with similar interests. We know not everyone will want to join us, but for those who are curious as to what we can learn together, we offer our synergy. Tachyon energy and the expansion of our own humanity into space is a large learning curve and process we all are a part of in different levels. We all progress intellectually at our own pace. Each human has their own path or journey alone. We are born an individual and will leave this plane of existence alone. This is in the divine cosmos of many universes, of which we share 7 and look forward to knowing all 9. Universe, multiverse, metaverse, xenoverse, omniverse, alphaverse, omegaverse, infinity squared, tachyon energy, black holes, expansion, ever-changing and growing, we call the divine expanse. Some refer to this as evolution.
Can't hear you.
You're still recording.
Okay. I don't know what. I think it's still playing the outgoing.
It just ended it.
Okay. It says ending in 3 minutes. I don't know why. Well, we've got to get the copy.